Hey guys, right, so this is like a quick tour. You need to use your imagination for this, to show you what I'm thinking regarding the site that I've found it could be up for potential redevelopment. So yeah, you arrive on site, you parked your car up, right, and what you're currently looking at is going to be a wood chip pathway. It's roughly going to be about 12 feet. The wood chip pathway's got to go all the way down there and all the way up there. Across the wood chip pathway, and you'll go through the blackthorn and rosewood hedge, which will circle up there at this point and down there, minus the 12 feet at the end, which will remain as grass. Right, so you come through the hedgerow, and this will all be tuffed and levelled, or levelled out at least. Now this section here is where I'd like to put some porta cabins. It's pretty firm ground underneath, so we shouldn't really need much work there. So we continue on. At this side, you'll notice the big hill. Using an excavator, small excavator, we can dig out so much of the soil and make what is called a walpini, which is a ground greenhouse, utilising both the heat from the soil and the unusable space of the slope. So you come through here, this here can be wood chipped and have tables for outdoor learning. Right, from here across to the edge before we get to the other mound. As you can tell, it's a bit sodden. Once you get to the mound, this here, where the mound is, will be a pathway up to the upper level. It'll be wood chip. It'll try and balance out, see when we take out the soil for the walpini. We'll try and level out the slope so it's less of a gradient. But yeah, that there, all of this, covered in wood chip or occasional planters or grow beds. Also, I was thinking about maybe putting like a storage unit, some sort of a container on it, and that way we can store up items like that we don't use or we do use on a day-to-day basis, just lock them away at night. So yeah, that mound there, that bit there, that's where you'd walk up to the upper level. Now if you come down here, this is you onto the old ash park. Again, it's pretty sodden, it's retaining a lot of water. But underneath this is firm red ash. Now the red ash can be used as a suitable base to put in a couple of large greenhouses. The greenhouses that I've seen, which are made for recycled materials, can withstand 120-mile-an-hour winds. So because it's quite exposed here, it would get some amount of wind, but hopefully the greenhouse itself will be suitable to stand up against it. The polycrub is a greenhouse designed in Shetland, so it's well and truly built to stand against some serious weathers. So yeah, but where the mound comes down, it would then level out to flat ground, which is where the polycrub goes. Where the polycrub is, it's 8 feet by 12. In the first year I'd only really want to try and get the first polycrub done. Stage 1 ends where the first polycrub sits, so it's roughly in line with the side of the building there. That's stage 1. Stage 2 is then into this area here. Stage 2 is going to be another polycrub just over there, and over this side this will be planter gardens, also a recreational area for open learning, so there'll be things like benches, tables, that sort of thing set out just for open learning. Now, as we treks through this sodden ground, as we get to about here, oh, I go up a wee bit more. Oh, right, so as we got to the end of the building on my left, right, this is into stage 3. Stage 3 is this area here. This wouldn't be touched for a good number of years. As I say, the ground itself would need to get maintained by the project, but this would be an area where we would have things like what was my plans? This area's got things like your tree planting, so kids come in, they can learn how to plant up trees and do grafting techniques and do a whole range of other things to learn how to propagate and grow their own plant stocks. In this section it would be a case of things like what do you call it, like your planters with your trees in them. The plants, the trees in them could be in the plant pot for a couple of years before they get planted out, and then, as I say, that would be something we could cohab with either the Scottish Forestry or another group which are looking for trees for their projects. So yeah, this is going to be stage 3. This is not going to be touched for a good number of years, but you'll notice again it's rather waterlogged. So we'll go back up to the ramp. When we go back up to the ramp, I'll show you how we're going to deal with the waterlogging. This is an interesting part of the project. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I used to do construction, trade construction, so at the college I was one of the people that were doing things like joinery and glass fitting and stuff like that. So as part of that we learned about built environment, which was learning about ground subculture, ground substructure, and what do you call it, site preparation, as part of the architectural module on it. So I've got a little bit of an idea how we can edit this to make it not waterlogged. As part of my applied arts, which was a subsequent course, well, that's us back on the mound. As part of my applied arts, we used a module which was on wild clays, which is one of the reasons we have so much waterlogging. Now, this is the upper level, so you'll notice that it's pretty sodden all the way across this full top section. Now, as a gardener, I can tell you it's pretty sodden because the amount of rain we've had and the lack of roots to suck this water up. So what we would need to do is, at this section here where it starts the top of the hill, I'd like to put in a thing called a dead hedge, which is basically branches and rubble, branches and organic matter to encourage wildlife, which means that at the top of the stack here you'd have a hedge basically of like dead branches, or you could even have something like a living hedge. You can have a dead side and a living side, whatever you prefer. with the living side, we could actually do things like braiding willow, which is quite an artsy way of solving the problem with the waterlogging. Oh, don't fall, Alan, don't fall. So yeah, so this here is back onto the first level. I'll take a wee walk outside, walk up the imaginary wood chip path. As I say, you can hear it as I walk. It's absolutely sodden. Now you think, what could you do with all this sodden ground? It's not very good for building on or for doing anything with. Well, truth be told, it can be used really well, especially in a garden environment. So yeah, this here is now into our wood chip pathway. So the reason I want to put a wood chip pathway in is it serves two purposes. With the wood chip pathway, it also gives you a source of compost. The wood chip takes years to break down, so once you've got your wood chip in, it gives you a nice stable footing. The wood chip, because it gets mashed into the soft soil underneath, it'll degrade and rot, provide the nutrients and acts like a sponge, so it'll absorb some of the water, giving more nutrients to the plants in the outside of the park, outside of the project, which is things like your hedgerow here. Also help feed things like the nice big tree we've got. More about the trees in a couple of minutes. So yeah, as you come up here, as I say, it's pretty sodden. Not the nicest to be walking on or looking at, but bear with me. Yeah, so as you come up here, this here is on the corner of the outside of the hedgerow, right? Up here, what I plan to do is level out the soil again, possibly with more soil fill the Walpini excavation. Once this is levelled out, we've got a good bit of soil on it, we can re-turf it, we could put wood chip down, but this area will be for the pallets and garden drop off. So if you were a business, if you were a gardener yourself, and you know what I mean, you come up to the site, we're currently shut, and you wanted to drop stuff off, then you've got an area to drop it off in. I don't know if you'll be able to see my camera on this phone's, it's reasonably good, but it's not the best. If you look through the trees there, you'll see a wall, right? That's the edge perimeter of the site. So the site covers all these trees. These will need trim back and given a wee bit of a manicure to try and get them more, how do you say, tidied up. But behind where that wall is, I was also thinking with the stuff that we trim from here, we could also use that to make another dead hedge, providing more area for wildlife at the other side of the site. A dead hedge, as I say, it's just branches that are piled up in a column structure. But yeah, this here, as you can see, the puddle there and the nice big water trench, the bit there, all of this, from what I understand, what I've seen so far, especially during the summer weather, this is what you call a clay tablet. This is a clay line area. It's hundreds upon hundreds of tons. Within that clay, you could find that there's loads of potential for digging it out and reusing the clay, and then subsequently filling it back in with something like your compost and soil, allowing the plants to bind it together with roots. If you do that, then you've got a more beneficial subsoil. Or what you have is, from the edge here where this tree sticks out, if you follow the left hand lane of the track, you'll see the bit that sticks out in front. 12 feet from that section there, either side, right, from the, say 6 feet either side of that trench where the water is, that could be excavated again to get down to the clay layer and gravel or type 1 put in to make what they call a French drain. A French drain will help take the water away from the majority of the site here, but it'll also have the water remain within the site at the edge here, giving, as I say, a big space for water to rest and the plants still to gain access to. As you come down here, I would walk down it, but I think I might even get stuck because it's that wet. As you walk down here, on this part of the site, right up to where the dead hedge, living hedge would be across that slope line, this would be your area for grow beds, right? Now this is a massive area. This would be able to hold a hell of a lot of grow beds. You're talking a 13 foot by 7 foot, or 12 foot by 6 foot grow bed. You're talking about getting hundreds of them in, you know what I mean? It's a large area for growing. If this site had to get developed, it's probably one of the largest community gardens within South Lanarkshire. But as I say, it would take a good number of years to get it up to full capacity, full development. Where the grow beds are, there needs to be at least 1.5 metres between each grow bed. The reason being is it's for wheelchair access. The wheelchair access, I was going to end up giving it is 1.5 metres from each side, so you've got a 3 metre gap between each grow bed. The 3 metres doesn't sound a lot, but over the space of the site it does take up a fair bit of room. But it would allow people that are in wheelchairs or have mobility issues the space they need, plus also let people work and do what they need to do, run about the grow bed at the same time. With a 3 metre perimeter around about the grow beds also gives place for kids to come over and learn while they're on the site. So they can plant their own vegetables up, and you know what I mean, they can do their bits that they need to do for passing the Growforit project modules. And I'll speak a wee bit more about that later on as well in another video. The site itself, as I say, it's a lot of work, yeah, but the work itself's done in stages, meaning that you can get stage 1 done. So stage 1 runs from the corner here over to the edge of the right hand side of the building there, see the yellow brick. That's roughly about stage 1, right? So it's a fair bit of ground to cover. Stage 2 is from the edge of the yellow brick to where the start of the electrical box line is, or the end of the electrical box, round about there. And then stage 3 is from that electrical box to 16 foot away from the edge of the grass. Around the full perimeter, so when you come onto site, I said that you went through a hedgerow. Around the full perimeter of the site there's going to be a blackthorn and dog rose hedgerow. This serves two purposes. It keeps the wildlife out from, or the larger wildlife out from the main site. I have seen deer on this site at certain times of the year. They're not usually a lot of them, but I'd hate to go and do the teaching of the kids, getting them all their stuff ready to go for harvest time in the autumn, and we discover that the deer has come in and eaten all of it. So as a general rule, we need to put a hedgerow up. The rose hips and the blackthorn also provide you with a crop. Things like sloes are really good for blackbirds and other wildlife. So the sloes would provide a food source for local birds within the woodland area. The rose hips the same, but the rose hips and the blackthorn can also be eaten by humans. The rose hips can be processed into jams and syrups, and the blackthorn sloes are used for what do you call it, for gin, or for sloe jams and sloe syrups. So there is options to use the hedgerow as a resource as well. Due to the size of the hedgerow, every year there will needs to be cutbacks on the hedgerows. As we're developing the site, it would be good to use the cutback as a potential regeneration of more blackthorn trees. So basically using the air layering technique, create our own trees from the trees that we initially plant. Over the space of the years, it'll eventually take over to the other side of the project. They grow pretty quickly. You're talking about a metre or so per year, and in that metre it grows in both directions, upwards and outwards. So with the outward branches, we would use them for creating creating air layering to then replant into the ground. With the dog rose would be, again, it can be propagated at certain times of the year, planted up in pots. Once you've got it planted up, you re-establish it back into the soil again, and you've got more plants for the next year. Obviously there's a couple of things that I've not touched on just yet. So yeah, these big trees, now I like them, I want to keep them. They're right on the edge of the project. They're well and truly the relics of this park. They must be at least about 70 to 100 years old at least, going by the size of the trunk base and the width of the tree. So I mean, they are a good age. This also helps balance out the water, but what I want to use them for is, because of their height and their grandeur, I would like to put in wildlife cameras, just Wi-Fi enabled wildlife cameras, so kids at the school can get access to viewing wildlife at night that come onto the site. Both schools would have access to the Wi-Fi, and they'd be able to see what's happening within the site at night. With the Wi-Fi cameras up, they are triggered by movement, so if we did have any, unscrupulous people breaking into this site, causing damage, we would be able to ID them, we would be able to see them at night. You get really good descriptions, because they use, with the Wi-Fi cameras, they've got really good range, and they also use infrared imaging, so you can actually see pretty high detail. It would stop things like this as well. You'll notice that around this site, people use it for trash burning and fly tipping, which is a problem, especially considering it's right next to a school, next to a couple of schools. Because of the trash burning and stuff like that, it doesn't give the kids a good, education about what to do as an adult. You know what I mean? Dump your rubbish and set it in the fire. It's not good. So with the site having the wildlife cameras, they can be put way up into the tree, looking down across the site and across at the entry points, for putting in things like the pallet drop off areas, the green waste areas for composting. Over in this corner, by the way, where the pallets get dropped off can be over here, this area, and then at this section here, just in the edge of the boundary of the tree, we could put in some composting bins. So if you're out cutting your grass or getting rid of weeds and whatever else in your garden, and you want somewhere to drop them off, then there's the option to drop them in here. Over the site there will be 3 or 4 composting areas. Also in stage 2, I'd like to set up a wormery, and on stage 3 at the back, where the tree planters and the other long-term projects are, I'd like to set up, maybe even get a beehive set up if beekeepers would like to develop and work with us on it, either at stage 3 or at the top grow section in the top level. As I say, stage 3 is not for a good number of years, but it should hopefully, as I say, take some shape. So thank you for coming on a little imaginary journey to see what the site idea is. As I say, this hasn't been developed on since the 1970s. It's been left to run wild. With the waterlogging and the water issues on the site, it becomes very difficult to use during the winter months. So this site really only sees use during the drier, warmer weather. And even then, it's majority dog walkers or school sports that get put on it. As I say, I don't want to use the full site straight off. I would like to develop it in stages of years. Stage 1 would be a 1 to 3 year project, and stage 2 would be a 1 to 3 year project, and stage 3 again would be a 1 to 3 year project, as I say. So you're talking well and truly closely to, you know what I mean, 10 to 15 years before the site's fully developed and fully established. But within that, that's 10 to 15 years worth of kids learning how to grow their own fruits and vegetables, gardeners learning new techniques about how to garden and how to solve problems. A good educational resource, we're an on-site library in the Portakabin area down at the front here. You'd see that the site developed quite well over the space of 15 years. It's a lot of work, but you can do it in stages and use the resources on site to help balance some of the issues. And as I say, with the big clay tablet, when I done my applied arts course, the big clay tablet could be excavated, replaced with compost as we go, and if we remove the clay tablet and replace it with compost, it gives fertile ground for growing in, but it also gives us a resource to work from. Wild clay, when you buy sand, just fine sand, you can temper it and you can then make pottery from the wild clay. Within the site there could also be our own adobe kiln, and adobe kiln's a wood-fired pottery kiln, which would give you a bisque fire for your pottery. So there is some primitive pottery ideas to try and encourage the kids to find an art form if they'd like to pursue. As I say, I've done my applied arts course and I enjoyed every minute of it. There is, as I say, there is some serious potential for this project, but it's just trying to get people together to pull the manpower so that we can actually develop the site. I'm still trying to structure a group. I have a Facebook group set up, albeit a very quiet one, but it's got some members on it. And as I say, if you join the Facebook group and you'd like to get involved, drop me a message on Facebook. We can talk and see about getting as a structured group. The site itself will be like, what do you call it, run by the grants and the funding that we get first. So in the initial stages, it'll be a case of getting grants allocated to the site, because of the subject it covers. and because of the scale of the project, we need to do it in stages. We couldn't do a massive project because the funding for it's just not there. But if we do it in stages, then the funding would be there, because you develop your site over, as I say, a good number of years. The funding allocation, because it's an educational, gardening and mental health beneficial project, it's also community based. It's good for deprived areas and help people out in, how do you say, financially strapped times. It would provide people a good resource within the Hamilton area. But as I say, I need to try and get the group structured, and as I say, I've not had much in the way. That's why I thought I'll bring you out on a little tour, a little imaginary tour of the site, so I can try and explain. Once I've got a slideshow that I'm still trying to get finalised, because my drawings had to get redone thanks to a certain child managing to get some crayons and pens and drew all over something. So yeah, the site itself, as I say, has got a lot of potential. As I say, with the waterlogging problems and the other problems on the site, these can be overcome. The site can be utilised properly. As I say, it's not seen a set of goalposts in the Ash Park for close to probably 40-50 years. But yeah, there is potential here, guys. So yeah, thanks for having a little tour with me, and as I say, you can see there's a good sized bit of ground to develop into a community garden. It's all up for development. According to the council's website, it can be bought over by a community project, albeit it was a community project advertisement for a number of years ago, so we'll just need to wait and see. But as I say, we can stop the fly tipping, we can stop the fire starting, and we can also start the growing and producing within this site. But yeah, anyway, nice chatting to you. I'll catch you in the next one.